My name is Øystein Solberg. I'm a full-time faculty here at the Institute for Culinary Arts. I've been teaching fine dining and production for the last 5 years. I also taught some protein, some foundational classes, a little bit of everything. When I'm not in the kitchen, you usually find me in the bakery, just eating whatever I can get my hands on. So before I started teaching at MCC, I've been kind of a little bit everywhere. I worked in different restaurants and some country clubs in Omaha. Before I moved to the States, I was about 3 years in France. I worked at the Norwegian embassy for a while, had some different kind of odd jobs here and there. Then I worked in Norway, kind of all across Norway. I got my formal education in Norway. I got my culinary diploma in Norway. So I spent 2 years in school and 2 years as an apprentice, and it just kind of opened this crazy door of being able to kind of travel everywhere and do whatever I want to do. So I've been very fortunate. So I was born and raised on a small farm in Norway. We had milk cows. At some point we had a pig, and we had a goat. We had chickens. So I always was around food, and for us to get to a store, we had to travel. It was like 30 minutes away at least. So like we tried kind of being somewhat self-sustained. Like we had our own milk, raw milk, which everybody hates, but it's really delicious. We slaughtered our own animals. Like we had potatoes, we had strawberries. Kind of had the whole hoopla. So kind of while growing up, like I was always next to my grandma and my mom, and just making food, like whether it was boiling a pig's head, making like a pressed pig's head terrine or whatever it might be. Like it was always some sort of cooking going on, and I didn't know it then, but it kind of just turned into like an addiction after a while. Once I got into school later, I was a horrible student. Horrible grades. Well, not horrible, but they were certainly not good. So the only school I really could get into was culinary. So it was me and a friend of mine that got into it, and we both kind of find out we really had a passion for it. And so like everything that's happened up to then, like I just didn't know that it was going to lead up until like the career path I ended on. So it was interesting, but I'm very glad everything kind of ended up the way it did. It opened a lot of doors. So what brought me to the States, and Omaha in particular, I met my now wife in Paris, France, and she was going to school there, and I was working at the Norwegian embassy, and met her somewhat tipsy at a bar. I was sober as could be. I was just cruising around, and we just fell madly in love, and I just kind of followed her here basically. So it's been an interesting journey, just a lot of paperwork and a lot of craziness, but it kind of being where I am at now, like it was all very much worth it. So I've been very fortunate to have a lot of mentors. Like when I started culinary school in Norway, two of my instructors both had worked at the hotel where I did my apprenticeship afterwards. So they're the ones that were guiding me in that direction. So hopefully they managed to see something worth in me. So they told the then head chef that you guys should hire this guy, and like they just kind of helped steer me there. And like I've met so many incredible people. It's hard starting to list them. Really, I've never really applied for a job until I came here. Like every job I ever gotten is through people, knowing people, and it's just a lot of amazing people, and a lot of nut jobs. But that's a long story. I think kind of I don't want to really call him favorite, but he was really the guy I worked with that inspired me the most. Like he was the head chef at the restaurant I worked at in Oslo, He's still a great friend and he's still a great inspiration. Just in his behavior, he was always calm and collected. Like there could be plates flying and knives getting stabbed at people. Like no matter what happened, he was just calm and collected. And his first goal was just making sure that the guests and his apprentices, like his staff, were okay. And he just did it in such a calm and collective manner. It's just something I strive towards, just being, no matter kind of what gets chucked at you, you just kind of take it with a smile and try and fix it in a non-crazy manner, and then you just kind of move forward. And being around students, that certainly helped me out a lot, because like you kind of meet all sorts of walks of life. So like that's what a school is about, and just being able to deal with different personalities, different backgrounds, it makes it a lot easier kind of walking into a room and just try and get everybody on the same page kind of. So it's helped me out a lot in really every job I had from there on after. So I've been very fortunate. I've kind of everywhere I worked with apprentices. I worked with kind of different background levels and skill sets, I would say. So I've always been teaching really without knowing it, but when I came here, like it all kind of clicked. If you asked me 8 years ago if I would consider teaching or if I ever thought about it, I would have to say no. Like I just didn't know. I didn't know I was going to end up here. It was kind of a little bit by accident, but it was a wonderful accident. So I'm certainly not regretting it a bit. I was just at a job. It was kind of a dead-end job, but like it was paying the bills, and I was still having somewhat fun. But I didn't see myself moving any further up kind of the hierarchy where I was at. So I was just kind of randomly looking at job, and my wife was looking as well, and she just wanted to just apply at Metro, and like they were hiring for a position then, and like by the looks of it, I figured like it's out of my reach. I really don't think I'm going to get it, but I figured might as well, so I applied. And then Jim Trebin, which was the dean then, called me and went through the whole interview process. We had like a cook-off, the whole thing, and it all just kind of worked out. So I basically started teaching her when we moved into the new culinary building. So it was a crazy little ride. Kind of my teaching highs when you've been working with a student or a group of students for an extended period of time, and they've just been struggling and struggling and struggling, which happens. Like it's not an easy industry to be in, but then when they finally get it, when it just clicks, and then they just go and just execute it flawlessly, it just happens. And then not only can they do it, but they understand why to do it the way to do it to make it work. Because like it's a lot when making sauces or whatever. Like when making mayonnaise, you always say like you don't really know how to make a mayonnaise until you break one. So when they kind of see like what happens to mayonnaise when it breaks and why to do all these strange things to put it back together and whatnot, like that's when you really understand mayonnaise. So it's when they break a few and make a few, that's kind of my teaching high right there. I think the most important thing a student can take out of really any classroom is just humility. Both the kind of people around them, to themselves, to their guests, to anything. It'll just make you so much more open to learning from the most unexpected sources. A lot of people, especially when they start getting higher up in the ranks, they're just going to forget kind of where they came from. But like, I started on the dish pit. Like it was my first restaurant job, and I'm very glad I did, because it just makes me respect every chain of the hierarchy so much more. Because like, if you forget where you come from, there's no way you can keep growing. I really do wish I had time for hobbies. That would be really swell. But Whenever I do have time, I try to do some gardening at home. I used to be a musician, but a horrible one. Like, believe it or not, I used to play the tuba. I was not great at it, so hence I stopped and got into food instead. At this point in life, like I got 2 young kids at home, I got a wife, I got a house, and I got a lot of students. So like it's hard to navigate because whenever I'm at home, like you turn into a trampoline by my kids. Like I'm still thinking like, how can I make my classes better? How can I make my students' education better? Like their experience here at MCC. Like I just always trying to think of the next step. Like how can I make things better? Then usually my wife cooks up some food, and then don't think for about half hour, and then I start thinking about it again. So it's tricky, but I try and find time for some gardening and some home renovation projects. Trying to learn how to use a drill and whatnot, but it's a little learning curve. But I think I'm going to retire at some point in life, so I got to try and get something lined up by then, I guess. The thing that's kind of stuck by me the most is that you really do meet the same people on the way up as you do on the way down. So really just treating everybody as the way you want to get treated makes the downturn a lot easier, because nobody's going to stay on top forever. Like there's always a way down. So being sure that you don't burn every bridge on the way up makes it a little bit easier to sit down afterwards. My name is Øystein Solberg. I'm a chef instructor here at Metropolitan Community College.